So I totally went down a rabbit hole with this whole glycerine, glycol, the whole, what is it? Because I wanted to assign meaning to the song.
Yeah.
So.
What's the difference between glycerine and glycerin?
It's minimal. So glycol is what glycerin and glycerine are part of. And basically, glycerine is a less refined version of glycerin. So forgive me if I've misunderstood it. I think I'm communicating it right.
Maybe there's a physicist out there.
Maybe.
Or a chemist.
They can tell us.
We need a chemist.
Well, it's part of a triglyceride. Glycerol, glycerin. So it has a higher, let me see. It's got a higher amount of this. I'm trying to remember what it's called, a trihydric alcohol. Trihydric? I think it's hydric because it's hydrating. It's used in a lot of skin products to hydrate the skin. But I found out some really interesting stuff about it because it is a type of sugar alcohol so the glycerin is 95% refined sugar alcohol and the glycerine is 65 to 75%. So it's odorless.
I see.
It's odorless. What's the other thing? It tastes really sweet.
Oh.
But it doesn't have, you can't just readily identify it by looking at it. So it's kind of a viscous liquid. So yeah. I'm imagining like something akin to a simple syrup sort of thing. However, this type of sugar alcohol doesn't spike insulin. And I was wondering, again, having gone down a bit of a rabbit trail,
I guess.
I'm wondering why it's not used in more diabetic foods, since it doesn't spike the insulin production and it's safe.
You've already changed my mind.
Oh.
Because I just thought that Gavin Rossdale, the lead singer for Bush,
yes,
just didn't know how to say glycerin, or took artistic license to say glycerine, because it sang better than glycerin.
And it does.
Although I would say that neither one seems to be like a good word for a song.
No.
Especially to dwell on, and also it's kind of... To repeat.
A lot.
Not only that, to be a hit.
Right? So let me veer down the rabbit trail just a little bit further, and then we'll get back to the song. So I did see on a lot of what does this song mean posts, because I'll go on to the Reddit or to on the song forums and see what other people are saying, because there's a couple of really hard to understand words in the song that I couldn't piece together from watching him sing it, like from watching him mouth the words, and the lyrics that were available online
were conflicting,
contested each other. Exactly. So within the body of this, me trying to figure out what the heck is he saying, people thought that he meant he was shortening and then taking artistic license with nitroglycerin, that the relationship had been explosive or would be explosive if they didn't leave it alone. Mm-hmm. If they were together, then the relationship was volatile.
Which makes more sense.
Interesting, right?
And also kind of how I thought of it.
It was explosive,
when it came
right?
out. I thought it was more explosive.
A lot of people thought that.
Yeah.
So, and getting to know what glycerine is, it's this odorless liquid that, I mean, it has a benign appearance, right? But it's really sweet if you taste it. And he says in there, one of the lyrics is, "You've got a beautiful taste." So it could be where he wants the relationship to have more depth to it, or he feels certain things when he's engaging in a specific way with this person.
There's also a lyric about something of the three. What was that?
Yeah, which is triglyceride.
Triglycerides.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So it should have been. Let me see. It should have been. Gosh, now I can't think of it outside of the body of the whole thing, but the three was our old friend Fear and You and Me.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super clever because there is a lot of fear in embarking on a relationship, especially if it is volatile or it seems a little too sweet, because there are some things that are too good to be true. And again, on the rabbit hole, but also tying into the song, the chemical version, the synthetic version, rather, I should say, of glycerin or glycerine has known carcinogens. Again, I was looking into the diabetic food, but the naturally occurring, the plant-based or the oil-based, like olive oil-based glycerins, totally, it seems like it's totally safe, and I don't know why we're not more down the road with it.
You know, when the song came out, it was in my late teens, early 20s, probably, something around there, and I never identified with the song because I couldn't get past the hang up of glycerine.
Yeah. It
made it so weird to me that it was such a popular song. And I liked the song and that it was catchy and that it, it was a stripped down song at the time, kind of, even though it was like a lot of distorted guitars and it was no drums, I don't think, in the original. I don't remember. It was kind of orchestra.
Minimalistic.
There was other songs on that album I preferred, for sure, and it was a great debut album by Bush. They had several hits off of it.
He's got a really unique way of making his words, so that's kind of why I thought he was taking the artistic license with the glycerine as well.
Well, and this I'm not sure of, because grunge kind of originated in Seattle, and we had, of course, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, the Pixies,
right.
Preceded them.
Which I am enjoying the Pixies of late.
So, however, I never realized. And I kind of maybe thought that Gavin Rossdale was Australian, but he's actually British. So it's a British band. And it makes me wonder now, like I never thought then, but
just pronunciation.
Were they, and maybe some of our European followers know, but were they the first European grunge band?
Great trivia that I have no answer to.
I have no answer to that either. But
I went down a completely different rabbit trail.
Maybe, perhaps they were, because I think they came out in, I want to say 93 or 4. I'm not exactly sure when they released their first album, but I know that they were right around 93 or 4.
Do you know what the name of the album was? Like, I seriously went the wrong rabbit trail. The very first album,
I believe, was just Bush.
Oh, self-titled.
Self-titled. Okay. And I think, or 16, something pounds.
It's okay if you don't, because
I'm not sure. I can't remember it. I did have
that,
it. I had that album. I know their second album had a memorable name, and it was called Razor Blade Suitcase.
Okay, but that wasn't their first one.
And then they broke up after that. And Gavin Rossdale did a solo album, I believe, and he had his girlfriend at the time, which was lead singer for No Doubt, sang on it, Gwen Stefani.
Right. She's got a really unique voice
that
too.
Part of it. Yeah. And then I don't think that all worked out. And I think that eventually, after some lengthy break, they actually reformed Bush. But I'm not familiar with any of their albums after they formed, and I think they probably would have had like a 6 or 8, maybe even a 10-year hiatus, but it was a pretty lengthy break, and I know that, I think they're still around today, but I think the only original member is Gavin.
Probably deserve a listen.
So
I just haven't done any deep dives with their...
But I do remember learning a couple songs off their very first album, this one included. I think that I was in a top 40 band in my early 20s, as a lot of people know, or not a top 40 band, but a cover band. More of a straight cover band than no originals. And I think I remember playing the song at the time, but if not this song, then definitely Machine Head. And I don't know if you remember that song.
Yeah.
And
I do.
Another song called Little Things.
I don't know that I know that one.
I think we did that song too.
I don't know that I know that one.
So, and that might have even been a song that I sang in that band. I don't really remember, but
we're gonna have to revisit it.
We're gonna have to revisit it. I just happened to think of it when Bush bring back memories. Of course, they were in the same era as the Pearl Jam and the Live, and Stone Temple Pilots, and that was a big era for that edge of grunge. The
original
precursor to modern rock.
flannel movement.
Yeah.
Pre-hipster flannel.
A lot of it was still very rock oriented, you know, and composed songs. And you tend to want to write off some of that stuff as, you know, a kickback against the complexity of like hair metal bands and the, you know, orchestrated guitar solos and all this stuff. But if you listen to bands like Stone Temple Pilots and their chord voicings and their knowledge of music is very deep. They weren't just like, they didn't just roll out of bed and write a song.
Oh, exactly. I think this song in particular, if you go back and listen to the original studio recording and then their acoustic recording of it, I think it really highlights a lot of things that you don't expect from a grunge band. I think it's not so instrumentally heavy as you, at least as I form a grunge band in my head. It does have the chug-a-chug of the guitar that's kind of ever present.
Minimal as one or two guitars, bass and drums, heavy distorted guitars.
But this song doesn't.
And a lot of unintelligible vocals.
Yeah,
In my mind, that's how I think of it.
In your mind. But listen to this song. It really highlights his vocal, and the guitar is really just the foundation of the melody.
Right. It's a background for
It's got a really some really beautifully sweet sentiment in there melodically.
I trying to think back at when the music was fresh and when it came out, you know, rather than now, in my opinion of it. You know, I remember thinking that Gavin Rossdale had maybe the best voice among the grunge movement, you know.
Oh, okay.
With the exception of maybe
now I have to think.
Lane Staley and Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. I thought that they had really great vocals too, but like a lot of people maybe would say that stylistically they weren't their favorite, you know. But I did think they were really good with their harmonizing and their vocal quality.
I always loved the harmonies.
You know, but then later on, honestly, as I matured in my tastes, I honestly thought that maybe Eddie Vedder, you know, he had a great voice, and even Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots had a great voice. But at the time, I think it came off as like, you know, there were the jokes about singing with marbles in your mouth.
Right. I think Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam has great songs. I feel like it was in that in between when people had or were beginning to have personal computers at home. But there was no way, unless the artist decided to print out the lyrics on the body of their work that you bought. You had no way. We sat there for hours rewinding tapes and listening back and rewinding tapes and listening back, trying to figure out. And I remember being in high school, and one of my friends came in to class super duper excited because they had transcribed, I think it was a Red Hot Chili Peppers song. I think it was maybe Under the Bridge. They had sat there for hours, writing, going back and forth, like rewinding the tape, you know, which they had listened to.
Only learning guitar parts too.
Well, it was so much work because if you didn't own the tape, you had to wait for the radio to play it, and then you would record it on your own personal mixtape. And then, so you've done step one there.
Let's face it, CDs were expensive, even though they were available in that time.
It was barely available.
It wasn't like something that you got like all the time. You didn't get CDs a lot because they were expensive.
If you had a CD player, because CD players were expensive.
I mean, I had maybe, you know, I spend the majority of my income on CDs probably.
Right.
And even then, it was like a lot of the CDs wouldn't be new music. It'd be replacing old music or music that I had taped off the radio or vinyl records. That,
for a little easier listening experience.
And, you know, the modern hi-fi experience.
Right.
You know, but then slowly, like I would go both ways instead of, you know, I'd get some new music and some
Well, even then,
you know?
the artists were rarely putting their lyrics.
Depends, because some artists were really good about putting their lyrics out, and others were not. You know?
Well, I know that because I was a big fan of Jewel in high school, and she was really good about putting her lyrics on. And I think that's because her, and I could be reading into this, like her background is in poetry. And so the written format was important for her to share.
Yeah. I would think that for people that are lyricists and that they pride themselves in the lyrics, and, you know, maybe so artists that are in like a folk genre, etc., where the song is king. It's not the melody. It's not the music supporting it. It's the lyrics first and foremost. I would think that people, for certain, the people that value that above all else are going to want their lyrics front and forward, you know?
I don't know, though, because I really value lyrics, and we... whether through budget restrictions or the aesthetic of the product that we're putting out, we don't put the lyrics out. I think we put out Move That Earth's lyrics, but only on the vinyl inside sleeve. I think those are the only lyrics that we've ever put out with product. I know that we have, or we had talked about making them available. And it's a budget,
a lot of it is budget restrictions.
But for me, they're really important. They hold a lot of weight for me. Do we put them on the website? I know we had talked about putting some of them on the website. I think the times we have had them. Yes, currently points. I don't think they are. I know there's a few lyric videos that are out there of our original tunes that have the lyrics kind of going along with...
Not as many as you would suspect. I think maybe just one or two.
Let's get on it. Now
that's your project.
I've been made aware.
You made yourself a project.
I tucked myself into some work.
You made yourself some work.
Yeah.
I've been showing you video editing, so now you got a whole new thing to try.
I'm bad. I know the very I know how to open the program. Maybe. Yeah. The lyrics are important, and I think
any video editors out there, we pay in tea and biscuits.
Tea and biscuits. Like the English style biscuits. If you want the Southern style, like fluffy biscuits, we can do that too. Biscuits and gravy. Although I think biscuits and gravy go better with coffee than with tea.
The only gravy I want on my biscuits is like chocolate or like filling.
You like a sausage gravy on a regular biscuit. I'm not talking about a cookie.
I'm not really
like a
biscuit guy.
I know. It's just weird. It's weird. I prefer the cookie style of biscuit anyway. It's delicious.